Good evening, good afternoon. This is lecture number 6. I remember that next Wednesday, Professor Oskari Eurikola will give his lecture on the Book of Nature, because the ordination, the bishop ordination of a friend of his in Helsinki. And then I will give lecture number 7 next Wednesday, in 15 days. No, not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after the next Wednesday. And okay. So today's topic is probably one of the most difficult topics that Science and Religion Dialogue can tackle, no? So I beg your pardon if at the end of this lecture you will remain with many questions and only very few answers, but I hope that the very few answers will be useful to go more in depth. This is a task for next generations of theologians, as you easily understand. We can say few things, but these few things is worthwhile to say them and to put some key points on this very intriguing and why not very interesting and wonderful topic about the diffusion of life in our universe. Scientific and theological perspectives. Here we go. We will begin by illustrating a bit the debate on extraterrestrial life between scientific thought and humanistic culture, because you know that there is a relevant part of humanistic culture, think of literature, cinema, and so on, which is interested in this topic. And a number of interesting ideas come from this part of human culture. Then I will propose what Christian theology could say in the cosmic context of extraterrestrial life in search of a consistent epistemology. You have already seen that I use in my lectures to offer always or almost always an epistemological part, because I consider quite important to put order in order to see which kind of questions are meaningful, which other kind of questions are less meaningful or non-meaningful at all. So putting order will help us to go forward in this very important topic. Then theology and science on extraterrestrial life, a common quest for understanding. Let's begin by chapter 1, the debate on extraterrestrial life between scientific thought and humanistic culture. The debate is much more ancient than you imagine. For instance, we find Plutarch. He wrote a small work, De Face que in orbe luna apparet, and is probably the first author to wonder on the possible existence of inhabitants on the moon. Just looking at the features in the moon surface, he was wondering about possibility of inhabitants on the moon. In the Middle Ages theology, we find the debate on the plurality of worlds in relation to their dependence on God. Take into account that the Middle Age debate does not correspond exactly to contemporary debate, because the expression many worlds in Middle Age theology referred to the idea that God could give rise to many independent worlds. And so the emphasis was not on the inhabitants of these worlds, but on the possibility of other worlds different from the worlds we live in. But there are analogies between that way to face the question and contemporary way to face the question. Nicholas of Cues, Cardinal Cusano, on learned ignorance, the docta ignorantia, alludes to possible other worlds naively placed on the stars, discussing what relations such worlds would have with the Earth, what relations between the nature of their inhabitants and the intellectual nature of humans. So Cusano is interested in inhabitants, not only in many worlds models, but in inhabitants. He puts inhabitants on the stars because he doesn't know the dynamics of star systems, solar systems, planets, and so on. So in a general way, he refers to stars, to other stars. Giordano Bruno maintained that life was spread throughout the universe. Not only the form of inhabitants of the stars and planets, but also invoking a vitalist principle to provide a soul to the stars, planets, comets, and to the entire universe. So the way in which Giordano Bruno approaches the issue of life and the cosmos is much more general. Cosmos is full of life in many forms. It's kind of pantheistic position in a sense. What about Galileo and Kepler? Galileo and Kepler didn't address the question on extraterrestrial life directly, but perceived that the heliocentric system placed the other planets of the solar system in a situation similar to the Earth. So the door is open to speculate about possible inhabitants on other planets. Very influential works reprinted many times. Bernard Le Bovier de Fontanelle, Entretien sur la pluralité des mondes, 1686. Christian Huygens, Cosmoteros, sive de terris celestibus earaunque ornatu conjecture. Camille Flammarion, La pluralité des mondes habités. They are works of science popularization, very well written. The first one is a kind of dialogue between a scientist and a rich lady speculating about this topic, no? And they have been reprinted many times up to our days. Giovanni Schiaparelli, who is the author here reproduced, contributed to rising interest on the possibility of intelligent life on the planet Mars. He was a scholar interested in studying this planet, reporting the observation of Mars channels, 1877. In contrast, Alfred Wallace, this author, in his work, Man's Place in the Universe, a study on the results of scientific research in relation to the unity or plurality of worlds, we are in the beginning of the 20th century, defended a fully anthropocentric universe. Human being is the only intelligent being in the universe, according to this view endorsed by Alfred Robert Wallace. These are two different images of Mars, Schiaparelli's drawings of Mars and Viking orbiter images of Mars. But if you see, they are not so much different. Okay? The general features are more or less the same. There are more than 1 century between them, but in any case, no. Schiaparelli's drawings, what the Italian astronomer indicated with the expressions canali di Marte was translated into English as canals instead of natural channels. So this word canals refers primarily to a human work. It seems that Schiaparelli was aware of the error, but he preferred to keep silence, because in this way his fame was growing. because the debate about extraterrestrial life contributed to give a particular emphasis to his work. This is an image of Viking enlarged, and you see here a channel. This channel is produced by a flyby, more than a flyby, the impact, but a superficial impact of an asteroid on the surface. This is the result of this impact on the surface of Mars. Plurality of worlds, extraterrestrial life, and Christian faith. We are in the introductory chapter. 19th century astronomers, such as William Herschel, Angelo Secchi, who was a Jesuit, and he was the founder of the Astronomical Observatory on the roof of Sant'Ignazio, near from here. Francesco Denza, Virginio Schiaparelli maintained a non-conflictive reading of extraterrestrial life in a Christian context. And these were first magnitude scientists for the epoch. So they were quite influential in the fact that in that epoch there was no conflict, no spatial debate between Christian faith and extraterrestrial life. No, it was accepted as a possibility. I don't know if you have seen a textbook of dogmatic theology, but it's very, very well known, Schmaus, Dogmatic Theology. If I remember well, in volume 1, the section devoted to creation, Michael Schmaus, who, by the way, was the teacher of Joseph Ratzinger, has a positive view about the possibility of life spread in the cosmos, because this is consistent with the glory of God. It is just a short statement, but the place in which the statement is put, namely a textbook of dogmatic theology by Michael Schmaus, is an example of how the topic was seen and more or less accepted, more or less. In the 19th century theologians, there is a shift from prudence to optimism. When considering a cosmic context, the greatness of God's glory, His immensity and fecundity are emphasized. Some 20th century Christian authors mentioned this topic in their works: Teilhard de Chardin, Eric Maskell, Paul Tillich in his systematic theology, Michael Schmaus, Erna McMullin, Ted Peters. Among them, only Ted Peters is still living. The other passed away. Actually, he also passed away, Karl Rahner preferred not to tackle the subject. There is an article by Karl Rahner in which he says, this is a very, very difficult topic. I prefer not to spend much speculation. So he offers some very few ideas, but he does not develop the topic. And he was Karl Rahner, and he was very accustomed to tackle issues that no other theologians had the courage to tackle. But in this case, he didn't have the courage to tackle this issue. In the second half of the 20th century, different perspectives coexist. Human and earthly uniqueness, Davis, the place of Christ, or a pluralistic view, Kate Delano, many worlds, one God. All these works are referred in the final bibliography in the last slide. Contemporary theologians, just a few ones, who deal with this subject, bend toward a pluralistic and optimistic view. If I have to say which of the two views is more endorsed, I would say that it's more endorsed the optimistic view. However, in the absence of evidence in favor of extraterrestrial intelligence, theological establishment continues to work in the frame of a classical solution, namely, human being is alone, considering the uniqueness of human intelligent life in the cosmos. I will argue in the next slides, in the prosecution of my talk, that this classical solution is a solution that can be considered reasonable, non-anti-scientific, non-scientific. We can debate about this solution, but the criticism, this solution is non-scientific, non-scientific. In my opinion, it's not a good criticism. There is no foundation for this. I will offer a number of reasons. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the debate on the existence of extraterrestrial life has gained a new interest thanks to the widening of horizons brought about by contemporary cosmology and by the development of space mission. We have here James Webb Telescope. We have orbiting telescopes devoted almost exclusively to the search for extrasolar planets, namely Kepler. A galaxy includes an average about 10 to the 11 stars. At least half of them have planets orbiting around. In most cases, they are very different from the Earth, but they are planets orbiting around these stars. In the accessible universe, there are no less than 10 to the 12 galaxies. So if you do a very simple operation, you draw that there are many planets in the world, in the visible world. Today, the search for extraterrestrial life is a specific scientific research area. It's not hypothetical speculation. There are money inverted in this kind of research. Astrobiology is part of contemporary astrophysics. This is a discipline taught in the schools of physics and schools of astronomy. Area 51 is one of the research areas of the International Astronomical Union. People work in this area. Space agencies and research institutes host special committees to study the cultural and psychological impact of possible discovery of extraterrestrial life, and especially extraterrestrial intelligence. Space missions on Mars, rovers, looking for possible life forms, Pathfinder, Spirit and Opportunity, Curiosity, Perseverance, ExoMars, who unfortunately is still waiting because you know that the Russian resigned the collaboration. So this was the date expected for the mission, but the mission is still waiting. Orbital telescopes for searching and studying extrasolar planets, Spitzer, Kepler, TESS, and other in project, Nancy Grace Roman. Future relevant missions towards Jupiter and Saturn satellites, Europa Clipper, Dragonfly to Titan, very far future, launch 2027, arrival 2034. Probably I will not see this arrival in any case. Okay. Pioneer 10, launched on March 3, 1972, and Pioneer 11, automatic missions, had on board a plaque with essential data on humans from the Earth. There are many informations in these plaques. Let's see if I recall the most important information. This is the solar system, namely the sun, and this is the distance and the direction of the most important radio sources in our galaxy. So it is a kind of map of our position in our galaxy. This is the solar system, and this is the path followed by the probe, no? This is the Earth, Mars, Jupiter, a man and a woman. The proportions of the man and woman are true proportions compared with the silhouette of the probe. This is the silhouette of Pioneer, and this is if I remember well, this is the molecule of water. Seems to me okay. It was a plaque. On distances and time scales involved in extraterrestrial intelligent communications, we have to say a number of things. First, since electromagnetic waves travel at the light speed, which is 300,000 kilometers per second, the time needed to exchange communications between Earth and other celestial bodies depends on the distance between them. And this very simple statement says that we have a very few possibilities to exchange full discourses. All question-answer conversation implies a time delay. About 2 seconds between Earth and Moon. About 15 minutes between Earth and Mars on the average. It depends on the distance. Within a distance from us of about 10 light years, we have only 12 stars. 10 light years. So it means 10 years to be received, to let our signal be received by possible other intelligent life, and other 10 years to receive an answer. So it means 20 years between our... Is anyone there? On the other side, wrong number. Within a distance from us of about 100 light years, we have 13,000 stars. We have a quite huge number of stars, but we have 2 centuries. Milky Way, our galaxy, only our galaxy, has a size of about 100,000 light years. So it's quite impossible to communicate with a solar system, with the star systems on the other side of our galaxy. Nearest galaxy, what about communication between galaxies? There is a book by Ron Braswell, who was one of the first important radio astronomers. The title of the book is The Club of Galaxies. And he argued that all the galaxies form a club of people speaking among them. And in this moment, we are out of this club, but we're going to join this club in the next future. But it seems to me that it's very difficult to have this club, no? Because the nearest galaxy is 2,300,000 light years far. It is the nearest galaxy, Andromeda Galaxy. When we look today at Andromeda Galaxy, the light we see in our telescopes or in our binocular, even a binocular is adequate for have a view of Andromeda Galaxy. The light we see left the Andromeda Galaxy before that are well before Homo sapiens, but also well before Homo habilis. Perhaps the human being, perhaps not the human being, a humanoid, was able to use some very, very, very simple tools of stone. No? more than 2 million light years. What is the contribution of radio astronomy to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence? In principle, radio signals coming from possible extraterrestrial intelligence can be received from earthly radio telescopes. Ordinary earthly electromagnetic waves, radio, TV, etc., are traveling through the outer space. The only thing is that the far the signal goes and the weaker the power of the signal is. But in principle, the signals we produce go far away in the outer space. Electromagnetic waves coming from extraterrestrial intelligence are supposed to be easily distinguishable from natural waves. Remember the video clip we saw a couple of weeks ago about Contact, about the movie Contact. Extraterrestrial intelligence was recognized thanks to prime number sequence, information, intentionality. Professional radio telescopes used to dedicate only a very few time to patrol programs to detect extraterrestrial intelligence due to other scientific priorities. No? It's only a small part of their time is devoted to this kind of research. Amateur astronomers like very much this topic, so they dedicate all themselves with all the strong they have to this topic. No? Regular activity to listen to possible extraterrestrial intelligence sources is carried out mainly by amateur astronomers. Here finds the origin of the SETI program. Now, is it possible for people interested in it to elaborate signals at home? SETI program has a very high number of data to elaborate, and you can contribute to this elaboration with your laptop at home. It's a way to cooperate in this very paramount, important issue. Important projects of large scale large radio telescopes arrays, SKA is a square kilometer array, are under construction, also useful for SETI. It's a very, very, very big project. 1 kilometer array full of antennas. 1 square kilometer array. On scientific results concerning the search for extraterrestrial life or extraterrestrial intelligence, more than 200 complex molecules have been detected by radio and infrared astronomy. From the Earth, we don't need to go there. From the Earth, we look at these molecules, including organic compounds of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, alcohol, sugars, and amino acids, some of them on asteroids and meteorites. We look at these kind of molecules. But of course, these molecules are not a proof of life. They are molecules very similar to the molecules we see in organic cells. But they are not life, they are molecules. Small quantities of water detected under the Moon and Mars surfaces. Water certainly exists on Jupiter and Saturn satellites, as Europa, Titan, and Enceladus. Up to now, we had no possibility to analyze this water, but we know that there is water. There is water under the Moon surface. There is water probably under Mars surface. By the way, a group of Italian researchers 4 or 5 years ago detected water down of the surface of the Moon. But we have no analysis of this water. But in the near future, we could have these examples of this water and analyze the composition of this water. Up to now, we have 5 4,500 exoplanets, and more than 4,500 planetary systems have been discovered up to now. Among them, only about 200 can be qualified as Earth-like, so less than 10%. The other are normally very big planets, such as Saturn and Jupiter. No evidence of life, not even elementary forms, in the biochemical analysis of Moon and Mars rocks and surfaces, nor in the atmosphere of solar system planets. Up to now, this is the situation. No radio signal originated by extraterrestrial intelligence, only in the movies, from the outer interstellar and intergalactic space, up to now. Astrobiology and interdisciplinary reflections on extraterrestrial life and extraterrestrial intelligence are present in academic courses in the United States University. And I had the opportunity that in one of these universities, in the suggested bibliography, there are also some articles of mine. Good result. Okay. Historical systematic works written or directed by Stephen Dick, who is a relevant author on this subject. This is just an example of some works, titles of works of Stephen Dick. Okay, these are examples of titles of contemporary works on this issue. Extraterrestrial life is well present in 20th century culture debate, literature, science fiction, cinema. They are very well-known works of literature or cinema. Perelandra is a novel by Clive Staples Lewis. There is a trilogy of Lewis about extraterrestrial life. Quite suggesting. Science popularizations includes extraterrestrial life and extraterrestrial intelligence among the big questions which capture public opinion, such as the origin of the cosmos, the origin and evolution of life. They are part of these big questions. People is attracted to understand and to decode. Interestingly, and this is part of our specific topic in a science and theology program, interestingly, we often approach extraterrestrial intelligence with moral categories, even distinguishing between angelic eti. These are examples of movies in which the extraterrestrial intelligence are good guys. No, they help you. Or demonic eti. They are bad guys. But we approach this kind of moral categories. Good and evil, in a sense, are part not only of our life, but in general of cosmic life. When conveyed through literature, cinema, and popular science, extraterrestrial life, and especially extraterrestrial intelligence, raise philosophical questions which naturally flow into religious, moral, existential, and theological issues. If you have seen Contact, you remember that the religious plot is quite present. The debate between Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey, who is a theologian, a so-called theologian. This is the cover of a thesis given in the theological faculty of the Emilia-Romagna, Felix Culpa Felicissima Innocentia, Il dogma del peccato originale in Perelandra di C.S. Lewis. At the moment, as far as I know, in this university, we gave no thesis on this topic. If you are interested in, probably I don't know if I will have time to read this thesis, but you can propose this. It makes sense to ask why debate on extraterrestrial life and extraterrestrial intelligence almost naturally flows into religious questions. What is the reason? What is the reason? If you speak with someone crossing the street and you ask, if I had the opportunity to have a dialogue with an extraterrestrial alien intelligence, which kind of question would you address, would you like to address? Almost certainly, the answer would be, please ask him if is there any God, if God exists. Why? Why we immediately flow into a religious context? We have to reflect about it. What is the reason? In my opinion, the reason is that when trying to answer big questions, we instinctively seek sources of knowledge beyond our anthropological horizon. We expect a kind of revelation from someone who knows more than us, and AT is supposed to do. We look for answers to our existential questions. We are unable to answer to these questions, so let's hope that an alien intelligence will be able to answer to our existential question. This is something which resembles a waiting for revelation or an openness to revelation coming from outer space. When thinking about extraterrestrial life, the human race acquires a common identity. It is the consciousness of a common I in front of a new you, with whom to confront on the deepest existential questions. The example I did before, no? So we realize that all the human genre is a family. Is a specific genus on this planet. So we have to reflect about our origin, where we come from, and where we go. Among the big questions we are most interested in, questions we would address to a civilization more advanced than us, are certainly religious issues, such as, what is the place of human life in the cosmos? Is there someone behind and in the origin of the world? What is our origin and what is our destiny? We had to wait many centuries in order to receive the answers, but these are the kind of questions we would address to alien intelligence. It is perhaps for these reasons that literature and cinema often attribute to ET a moral role capable of directing human behavior towards the good. This is represented quite well in the Yoda personage in the Star Wars trilogy. This is a page from Paul Davies. You know that I am able to find pages by Paul Davies for every topic. Natural laws, question about God, origin of the universe, origin of life, and I even found a page of Paul Davies on aliens. The powerful theme of alien beings acting as a conduit to the ultimate, whether it appears in fiction or as a seriously intended cosmological theory, touches a deep chord in the human psyche. The attraction seems to be that by contacting superior beings in the sky, humans will be given access to privileged knowledge, and that the resulting broadening of our horizons will in some sense bring us a step closer to God. The search for alien beings can thus be seen as part of a long-standing religious quest, as well as a scientific project. This should not surprise us. Science began as an outgrowth of theology, and all scientists, whether atheists or theists, and whether or not they believe in the existence of alien beings, accept an essentially theological worldview, theological in a broad sense. A kind of religious issues are explicitly present also in the plots of good science fiction movies, underlined good. There are not so many, but some good movies. 2001: Space Odyssey, traveling beyond the barriers of space-time, the protagonist has the possibility to know the transcendent mystery that gave rise to life in the cosmos, a mystery which seems to possess the keys to eternity. Contact discusses whether to meet extraterrestrial intelligence should be a believing scientist or a non-believer. Atheist researcher Jodie Foster. The plot presents the decision as strategic, to draw more fruit possible from the contact. Moreover, extraterrestrial intelligence conveys an out-of-time contact with the protagonist's loved and dead father. Remember, the final scene of Contact is the way in which Jodie Foster is able to speak with his passed-away father. Mission to Mars lets the protagonists know in the final episode who originated life on Earth, namely Martians. And what is the father's house to which the humans must now return? The ending scene is that in this group of astronauts, all the other astronauts, except one, decide to come back to the Earth. And one astronaut decided to wait for the Martians inhabitants, and to go with the rocket built by the Martian, past the Martian inhabitants, and to reach them to another planet. And the very reason was, I want to come back to my father's house. It was the old myth of the two brothers. One of them loses the path, and the other brother helps the other brother to go back to the father's house. Interstellar deals with the great themes of immortality and love. The movie seems to communicate the idea that the laws of space and time depend on a transcendent foundation which is revealed by love, and that eternity is the place of imperishable love. Arrival features extraterrestrial intelligences capable of showing humans that war and violence are mistakes, that love is stronger than hate. We need aliens. ET helps humans to read their own personal history and to recognize a good superior destiny which seems to oversee their lives. Chapter number 2, Christian Theology in the Cosmic Context of Extraterrestrial Life, in search of a correct epistemology. Chapter 2 and chapter 3 will be more theological in character. When speaking of extraterrestrial life and extraterrestrial intelligence in particular, a major question soon arises concerning the uniqueness of incarnation. Right? This is the first question which arises, no? and the original sin, which characterized the history of salvation on the earth. On such delicate issues, science and theology studies must be carried out according to a consistent and proper epistemology. Let's see what happens in the past centuries. There is a letter by Pope Zachary in the 8th century, addressed to Bishop Bonifacius, concerning the teachings of the priest Virgil. Zachary disapproves the idea that there were inhabitants at the antipodes, on the moon or on the sun. And the very reason was because we do not know how to propagate the original sin to this kind of living beings. The underlying doctrinal motive was simply that of not introducing innovative elements which, by calling into question the unity of the human race, would make it more complex to understand what kind of relationship with God and with the original sin those men who were not the descendants of Adam had. What question scientific thinking can address to Christian theology? And why not? Which kind of questions must address to Christian theology? Is faith in God, the Creator of heaven and earth, the one and true God revealed by Jesus Christ, consistent with the presence of extraterrestrial life and intelligence in a cosmic space-time context, such as we know today? This is a well-posed question. This is a reasonable question. Is it consistent with the image we have of a Creator God? One and true Creator God. What is the relationship between life as aware in the cosmos and the revelation of God as life and source of all life? This also is another well-posed question. It is possible to investigate about this. We move in the realm of hypothesis because we do not have demonstration that life outer planet Earth exists. But in any case, from an epistemological viewpoint, the question is well addressed. Another example of well-addressed question. What relationship should atheism reasonably have to God, being God the ultimate end of human life, which is an intelligent form of life in the cosmos? God is intelligent, personal being. Extraterrestrial intelligence is intelligence. So, which kind of relationship do exist between these two intelligences, Creator's intelligence and the creature's intelligence, alien creature's intelligence? But there are another set of questions which seem to be bad posed, not viable, non-fully reasonable. And let's see the motives. What questions would not be epistemological consistent to address to Christian theology, requiring it to justify itself? For instance, to explain whether or not extraterrestrial intelligence has an original sin. We simply do not know, because we do not know the salvation history of intelligent beings different from us. So we cannot give any answer to this question. But not because we refuse to give a question or because it is too complicated. Simply because we lack data. We do not know any data about this. To explain whether or not God should or should not reveal himself, should or should not incarnate, should or should not die on the cross, rise from the death, on other inhabited planets. We have no data about any history of salvation different from ours, except one, but we will see this at the end. There is another economy of salvation, the economy of salvation of angels, who are called to participate to God's life. But except angels, we have no other data about which kind of relationship exists between God and possible alien creatures. Or to explain whether the presence of extraterrestrial life or extraterrestrial intelligence on planets other than Earth is confirmed or denied by the Holy Scripture. The biblical categories are quite distant from our contemporary view, scientific view on the cosmos we know. So we cannot put these questions to the biblical text as such. But there are people who are looking, well, look at this passage, perhaps there is a reference to alien life. My opinion is there is no foundation for this. Some people used to quote St. John's words by Jesus, I have other sheep which belongs to another flock, and we all gather together to one pasture, one flock. He's speaking about aliens. I don't know. It's not a good biblical exegesis, no, in my opinion. If theology is not obliged to comply with these questions, it is not to avoid headaches, but because these questions, when posed in this way, do contain pre-understandings and human categories which condition the whole subject. The Christian God is not a Platonic God from whom all can be known by inference and deduction. Let me explain. When I say that Christian God is not a Platonic God, it means that if we have a Platonic God, we have a number of characters associated to this Platonic God, and then we are able to draw all the conclusions. But we are in front of a personal, free being. And so there are many things that we cannot deduce. We must live free to God's very mystery, to God's very decisions. What kind of answers theology is reasonably asked to give? Report whether the issue has been addressed by Christian authors along the centuries. This is reasonable. This is a kind of research that you can do. Which theological a priori arguments have been offered, if any, in favor or contra alien life? This is a research that you can carry out. Whether are there any official and well-founded teaching by church magisterium on that? It's valuable to do this. Show whether the image and attributes of the one and true God as thought by Christian dogmas are meaningful also in a cosmic context in which extraterrestrial life or even extraterrestrial intelligence were relatively widespread phenomena. This is a good question to address to theology. Are the characters, are the attributes of the God we worship in tune, consistent with a cosmic environment in which life is a widespread phenomenon? My answer is yes, and we will see later on. This kind of question that we can address. Explain what role the mystery of God's incarnation on the planet Earth might play in this new cosmic wider context, and how keep the Christologos headship over the entire universe. look that the question is different from the previous one. The previous question was, is there any incarnation on other planet? We have no data to answer to this question, but yes, we have data to answer if the headship of the incarnated Logos has a local role or a cosmic role. We can answer to this question. And the question that it has a cosmic role. We do not know how to put this together with a broader idea of life in the cosmos, but we know that the role of the incarnated Word is a cosmic role, not only an earthly role. Two epistemological clarifications are especially important when confronting science and theology on the extraterrestrial life and extraterrestrial intelligence. First clarification. In my opinion, theology is not obliged to accept extraterrestrial life only because of statistical reasons. That is, because of the many planets and the enormous size of the universe, or because the statistical expectation ruled by the so-called Drake equation. The Drake equation, we will have a look at it, is an equation able to compute the number of possible planets with life. No? This is my position. Theology is not obliged to accept only by statistical reasons, and I will offer the reason. Second theological clarification is the discovery of extraterrestrial life or intelligence would not be the conclusive event to confirm or deny the existence of a God creator of the universe. And this is well present in many public opinion discourses. No? Finally, we will know if God does exist. Ask to alien. Will be the final solution. No, it will not be the final solution. Let me offer some foundation for this. First, because of the cosmological expansion, the large size of the universe is inevitably related to the time needed to produce all the chemical elements necessary to have human life on Earth. So to the question, why is our universe so big? And why are so many planets? Why are so many galaxies? The answer is because we need much time to produce carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, molecules, water, human flesh. We need time. Time means matter. Time means expansions. Time means sides, cosmic sides. So by alone, the only reason that the universe is very big, by alone, in my opinion, this is not the resolute, the final reason why we are obliged to accept the existence of alien life that we not see. The enormous space-time scale of the cosmos is not an apodictic argument in favor of extraterrestrial life. It is a necessary anthropic condition. Lacking a thorough knowledge about what life is and why does it appear, to know that many planets exist which can host life is not enough by alone to state that a priori that life is a widespread cosmic phenomenon. To have planets is a necessary but not sufficient condition. So we cannot draw from the fact that there are many planets the fact that the life is spread all over the universe. Simply because we don't know, we still do not know what life is and what are the whole set of conditions that let life arise. Probably, once we have this knowledge, we will correct a bit this statement. But up to our knowledge, from the existence of places adequate to host life, we cannot deduce that those places are full of life. This is Drake equation, just for general knowledge. No? The number of civilizations depend on a number of parameters. Mean rate of star formation, fraction of stars that have planets, mean number of planets that could support life, fraction of life-supporting planets to develop life, fraction of planets with a life where life develops intelligence, fraction of intelligent civilization that develop communication. And finally, this is most amusing, the mean length of time that a civilization can communicate, because there is a window. And then civilization stops, die, no? So we need also this parameter. No? We have an equation. But the result of this equation is those places where life is possible, and according to the rules that the Drake equations put. We do not have, up to now, a scientific knowledge capable of satisfactorily estimating all the parameters present in this equation. And moreover, this equation is about necessary and not necessary and sufficient conditions. We do not know why life is, and why intelligent life originates on a planet. We do not know if this should happen a certain number of times or never. So, if we believe in outer life, it is because of reasons different from the Drake equation. Because the Drake equation is only the suggestion that there are a number of necessary conditions that they are satisfied, but they alone are not enough to draw the existence of alien life. What about the second clarification? The second clarification was that the encountering with alien life is not the final result about God's existence. No? On 80 encountering, as if it were a conclusive event, to confirm or deny the existence of a God creator, please consider that. Any statement or any argument provided by aliens in favor or against the existence of God, if beyond our empirical experience, should be carefully analyzed and its credibility critically evaluated, as usual. As usual. So, if we accept this statement, we have to associate a credibility to this statement. No? So, the simple fact that our interlocutor says to us, God does not exist, is not enough for us. Moreover, when we humans prepared our messages in battles, and we have a number of these, we human beings decided not to communicate the widespread belief in a God creator, a belief shared by the majority of people on the earth. The majority of people on the earth agree on the fact that there is a creator, with different names, with different religious traditions. The majority of the human living beings agree on this. However, we never gave this information in our messages. the message sent by Arecibo Radiostelescope in 1973. And I remember that 10 or 15 years ago, I had a living discussion with some scientists about how to insert the information about God's existence in this kind of messages. And it is possible to do this. And they agreed that it is possible. Third and last chapter, Theology and Science on Extraterrestrial Life, a Common Quest for Understanding. Perhaps this last chapter is a bit more difficult, and I ask you an extra doses of attention. Although the issue of extraterrestrial life and intelligence remains one of the more challenging ones for Christian theology, a few of theological statements could serve as guidelines. First guideline: there are no theological a priori arguments against the spread of ATL or ATI in the cosmos. There are no theological a priori arguments against this, nor in the magisterium, nor in theology. However, the classical solution, uniqueness of human beings, cannot be a priori refused nor considered as naive or anti-scientific, because of the reasons I gave. That is, the size of the cosmos depends on the anthropic conditions we need, and because Drake equations and the like concern necessary and not necessary and sufficient conditions. Second statement: the image and the attributes of the triune God revealed in Christ hold their universality and consistency even in a cosmic context which may include ATL or ATI. Third statement: the cosmic headship of the incarnated Logos and the value of his Paschal mystery, have a universal, it has a non-local meaning. They hold over all creatures whenever they are, because of their non-strictly anthropocentric character. Okay. This headship has a non-anthropocentric character. Okay, now let's develop a bit more each of these three statements. First statement: there are no a priori arguments against the spread of ATL and ETI in the cosmos. However, the classical solution, uniqueness of human life, cannot be refused a priori. There are no theological arguments nor teachings of the Church Magisterium that a priori reject or deny the possibility of ATL or ATI. Even that old letter of Pope Zachary says that we don't know how to reconcile this with the propagation of the original sin and the unity of human race. But it is not the denial of the hypothesis. It's only the expression that we have a problem to solve. We offer to theologians a problem to solve. The Judeo-Christian tradition confesses and acknowledges the existence of angels. The meaning of intelligence and spirit in creation is not exhausted by the relationship between God and the human beings. There are intelligence and personalities and personal beings other than humans. The logic of creation remains open to other creatures, which, while dependent on God, as the angels are, have their own economy of salvation, or if you want, or their own economy of participating to God's life. A theological classical solution is open to be assumed within a more general extraterrestrial frame, in which the basic theological and Christological dogmas should continue to hold, though completed with the new and more general insights. In other words, the classical solution does not mean that we deny to open this solution to a broader cosmic context with the life in the cosmos. But it says that when we broaden the context, when we enlarge our horizons, we have to continue to believe what strictly pertains to what Revelation says about our relationship with God and with the incarnated Logos and with Jesus Christ and His Paschal mystery. If you have any familiarity, any acquaintance with the physical theories, you know that the physical theory admits a classical solution. For instance, relativistic theory of motion admits a classical solution when the speed of motion is much lower than the speed of light. So, in a general relativity framework, the classical solution continues to hold when the speed are lesser than the speed of light, much lesser than the speed of light. If you approach the speed of light, the classical solution is no longer valid. You have to enlarge your solution. The same happens with the quantum theory. If you have space-time dimensions greater than the typical space-time scale of atomic phenomena, you have a classic solution for the behavior of matter. The behavior of matter for normal size and space-time are consistent with what we know about matter. But when we go to the very narrow dimensions of the atomic size, we need to enlarge our horizon with a quantum theory which admits a classical solution as a special case. So, to state that the uniqueness of human being is a classical solution simply means that in case you enlarge, you have to hold this solution, and and all what you believe continue to be true, but within an enlarged horizon. Second statement, universality and consistency of the image of the true God, even in a cosmic context which may include extraterrestrial life or intelligence. Is the image of God consistent? In my opinion, yes. The image of the one and true God, one only God in three persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, continues to hold also in a cosmic context. The image of God delivered by the Judeo-Christian tradition is neither geocentric nor anthropocentric. The power and the causality of the one and true God have a cosmic, certainly not local, important range. He is the God of everything, of everywhere, of all the cosmos. He exerts His power over the whole of being, the whole of reality. In the context of a free and conscious life, the Trinitarian mystery possesses explicit non-local, that is, universal characteristics, namely, paternity and sonship are universal concepts, whose intelligibility belongs to the generative process, plausibly common to all living beings, more complex than bacteria. Bacteria does not reproduce with mother and son. They simply divide, no? But all intelligent life, more complex than bacteria, for this kind of life, the idea of generation is a meaningful idea. So we call it paternity and sonship. We can call it with other names, but the idea is real. There's an origin, and there is someone who receives his life from someone else. Paternity and sonship. The concept of a love gift, the Holy Spirit, is universal as well, as it refers to the idea of communion, of altruism, of donation. So among living beings, among intelligent living beings, you have a relationship of generation and relations of friendships, communion, altruism, not by generation, but by communion. So the Holy Spirit as such has a universal import, as it refers to the idea of communion, altruism, donation, certainly not foreign to the dynamics of a free and conscious life. This is, in my opinion, the reason why the image of one and true God continues to hold also in a cosmic context with a spread diffusion of life. Third sentence, the cosmic headship of the incarnated Word, Logos, and the value of his Paschal mystery have a non-local meaning. They are non-anthropocentric in character, and then hold all over the creatures. Why? The logic of revelation and the salvific value associated with the incarnation of the Word Logos have a universal, not only local import. The headship of Christ, the incarnate Word, over angelic creatures should be interpreted as revealing the headship over all possible creatures. We don't know how. We don't know by means of which economy, but we know that this is possible. We don't know the way in which it acts, but we know that this headship is not anthropological. It's much more than anthropological. When theology speaks in terms of Christocentrism, this implies neither a geocentric nor an anthropocentric perspective. We have to be careful not confusing Christocentrism with anthropocentrism. They are two different perspectives. Jesus Christ is at the center of the cosmos and history insofar as he is the incarnate Word Logos, that is, having the Logos assumed a creaturely, historical, and definite space-time existence. Let me explain it a bit more. Assuming human nature, the word Logos assumes, takes on creaturelessness. It's clear? Creaturelessness. Creaturalità. Even mortality. Wherever we have life, we have death. The incarnate Logos takes on even the weakness and mortality of every creature, not only in the earth, but all over the universe. The mystery of Christ, the incarnated Word, is meaningful to every creaturely being. God has assumed in Christ a space-time created nature. And this has a value that goes beyond the human creature as such. We just to think about it, no? But the relevance of incarnation concerns not only human nature, but creatureliness as such. God enters into history. And he enters in our planets because he enters into history. And history begins well before the story of our planet. Taking upon himself the reality of death, his resurrected body reveals that corruption and degradation, intrinsic to the whole material world, are not the last word. And if, by hypothesis, we ask to an alien being, is this meaningful for you? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because I see corruption, I see degradation, I see death. So it is more meaningful for me to know that death is not the last word in our cosmos. His resurrection, the resurrection of Jesus, herald and realize a destiny that concerns the whole space-time universe, not only the human beings. We spoke a bit of this, perhaps in lecture number 2, concerning the final scenarios of our universe, if I remember well. Along with the value of redemption from sin, and this is human history, Christ's death on the cross also has the value of a conscious acceptance of space-time creaturality and finiteness, the locus of a supreme obedience able to embrace all creaturally living beings. Just as Christ's resurrection would result meaningful to all existing creatures. The death of Jesus on the cross has a redemptive value, of course, but together with the redemptive value, it has also the value of accepting all the consequences of taking on himself a finite, creaturally nature. If I love the world, I have to take on a finite, creaturally nature. With my death, I demonstrate how much I love creatures. I am in full solidarity with them. I assume on myself the finiteness up to the death. I'm aware that we have to think about it. But they are just suggestions. They are just tentative and an attempt to outline what we could say about the topic. And much more is what we cannot say because we ignore. But in my opinion, we can say these few things. As known, the idea of a possible future dialogue seems prohibitive because of the distances involved. So we say detect, not a dialogue. We can detect possible signals, but not dialogue. Too much time required. In any case, if unforeseeable technologies would allow it in a far future, it travels at a speed much higher than the speed of light. In case it would be possible, I believe it is not possible, but in case it is possible to do this, then a believer in God would see such a dialogue or such an encounter as an extraordinary religious experience. He or she would manifest a sense of respect toward the other, acknowledge our common origin, appreciate the possibility of better understanding God's relationship with the whole of creation. So we cannot have any kind of dialogue, but in case we would have a kind of dialogue, a believer will see this dialogue with much respect and with a very religious dimension, due to our common origin. In such a dialogue, however, any information of religious spiritual nature should be critically analyzed, using all the other sources of knowledge, as we do on earth. If you have a religious statement, we have to put this in relation with all the other sources of knowledge we have, in order to believe to that statement or not. Because if it contradicts other knowledge we have, we do not believe in that statement. If the new religious knowledge acquired by extraterrestrial intelligence has been judged reasonable, then a Christian believer should compose such a new knowledge with the revealed truths and with the other church teachings corresponding to what we called the classical solution. So in case we receive more information on the creator of the universe and on the salvific will of the creator of the universe from an alien dialogue, we have to put this in correspondence, in harmony with the classical solution we know. Depriving the unthinkable dialogue between the human beings and extraterrestrial intelligence of its religious dimension, for instance, reducing it to mere exchange of technical knowledge, seems not possible. The idea that a contact with extraterrestrial intelligence may free Homo sapiens from a childish and immature religious believing, making him finally aware that his place in the universe is nothing but a chance byproduct of cosmic evolution, results in a totally unjustified opinion. We have to found it. If some alien says us this statement, we have to say, please found it. Give a foundation for this. It is a philosophical a priori statement. It's not a scientific statement. Most of the great existential religious questions, subject matter of philosophy and theology, questions that characterize our biological species, would keep all their meaning unchanged. Namely, the search for the ultimate reason for the universe. Why does the universe exist? Human aspiration to personal, everlasting, and faithful love. Human aspiration to an eternal life. Strong existential queries on innocent pain, injustice, death. All these questions in that club of galaxies continue to hold. So we still need an answer to this question. So the dialogue with aliens is not by alone the solution for this. To end up, I conclude. While theology is certainly involved, the last word on the question of extraterrestrial life is not up to theology, but up to science. We theologians are not called to answer if are there any extraterrestrial creatures, life. No. It's not up to us. It's up to science. The existence of intelligent life on planets other than Earth is neither required nor excluded by any theological argument. To all of humanity, including theologians, nothing remains but to wait. How long, we don't know, but we have to wait. There is no other possibility, no? And we have here a number of works on the subject. Fine. I stop here. So as I promised, we end with much more questions that we had in the beginning. But we did a kind of path. Any comment?
Classical model of physics, classical, right, Newtonian physics, and the classical system of theology was meant to describe the fact that for classical physics, it truly is a working system at the given parameters, right? Low velocities, etc.
Continues to be true.
Continues to be true. And so the implication would be that that's not an approximation, but rather a truly valid system within those given parameters.
Okay.
And the same thing could be said about the
That's right. It is an analogy, but right. the underlying idea is this.
Okay.
The underlying idea is that I'm not obliged to put aside this knowledge. This knowledge still holds.
I see.
This knowledge still holds.
Okay.
But in a much more broader context.
Okay, I see. I was considering it as if the Newtonian model were an approximation for actual, like... And
it is an approximation, you're right. It is an approximation, but the basic equations of motion are true.
they're still valid.
Are true.
I see, okay.
Are true in the light of our way of measuring. In light of of understanding the motions of material entities.
Certainly. Okay, that's fair.
This is just an image that I use because it could be useful to understand that we have not to deny what we know. We can continue to believe what we know, but we have to put this in a more enlarged reference.
That's fair. Thank you.
So another question regarding those signals that we hope to detect from other forms of life. So are these signals that are only intentionally sent to us? Or we hope that there are some signals that each form of life generates?
Both of them.
Generate now some
Both of them. We humans, we broadcasted both kinds of signals. We broadcasted explicit signal consisting in information, intentional information about our life. This was the message sent in 1973 from Arecibo Radio Telescope. Even the DNA constitution of our genome was sent. But also we have, grazie. But also we have much more signals that are non-intentional, not intentional. Spotify music or songs and TV series, every electromagnetic signals that leaves our atmospheres and go in the outer space.
Let's use this tool. So, but I mean, this kind of signals mean that we created some technology, Spotify, for instance, no? But it is not said that this other form of life is able to create some technology, no?
Of course. In the hypothesis that they have a technology similar to ours in order to receive and decode what we send.
Okay, but according to the knowledge we have, for instance, the form of life that we know, our bodies, for instance, animals, plants, do
does this kind of life send some signal? So I was surprised that we have found, for example, sugar or alcohol. You said no. We can detect
Yes.
this kind of stuff. So the question is, can we detect if there is some bacteria-like thing?
Just a moment. We detect carbon molecules because light impinging, scattering on these molecules produce some effects that we see and we say there is a molecule of water or other things. Not because the molecule itself sent any message. This against the light source. Okay. But in any case, to dialogue, we need a similar technology. It's quite common, the comic, in which we have a far planet, in which there are apes that are enabled, and we are making our efforts to produce radio signals and sending all kind of information, and from the far planet, there are animals enabled to detect what we send. Okay. Fine. John.
Just a quick one. From the conclusion we've made, between science and theology, is theology has already closed the chapter? It's upon science. Is theology daring science on the possibility of this ETL? Or is theology closed?
They are different fields. The field of theology is to answer to theological questions in case there is life in the universe. The field of science is to give the last answer whether life exists or not out of the planet Earth. This last question is non-theological. It's like the question if tomorrow rains. It's not that it is a factual, no? Okay. But in any case, think this. Both answers are both astonishing and marvelous. The answer that we are alone, but if we are alone, it means that all this tremendous universe was created explicitly for us. So if this is the final answer, this is astonishing. But also the other solution is astonishing as well. If there are many other living beings, many other intelligence in our universe, this is spectacular. This is fantastic. So in one case or in another, we live in a wonderful universe. Do you agree? Okay. Fine.